6 AM, Bondi Beach. First session of the day. Morning run. With views like this. Couldn't get much better. Banana and electrolytes pre-run. 40 minutes nice and easy. Let's get into it. Half an hour easy complete. About to go and meet the missus for the first coffee of the day. Insane views on the run this morning. Half an hour easy done there, and that leads us into our post-run nutrition. Now this is super important, probably the most important part when it comes to looking to run, lift weights and lose body fat at the same time, because what we really want to try and avoid is staying depleted of our energy stores or glycogen stores, because that's going to drive hunger and that is what's going to make us increase the chance of us overeating. So what I'm getting in straight after a run is you just want a nice simple carbohydrate that's going to replenish your energy stores, and then a little bit of healthy fats as well, and of course some protein. So I'm going to be having some oats, some organic peanut butter. It doesn't matter if it's organic, have whatever you want. And then I'm going to be having some chia seeds. These are really healthy fats, plenty of fibre as well, so that's going to help you with your digestion. And then a bit of cinnamon on top, mostly for flavour to be honest, but cinnamon does also control the amount of blood sugar spike that you have when you consume carbs. With the amount that you're going to have on top of your oats, it probably doesn't do that much. It really is just for taste, but there is that small benefit within there. And then of course I will have a scoop of protein in here as well. And this is the big thing, nutrition post-exercise. Try not to delay it. I know that I have done today because I've been straight out for a coffee, but ultimately that's just one of them things. No one's going to be perfect. We don't just have the availability to eat instantly after our workout. But now I'm home, just try and get it done as soon as you can. You know, just try and get it in there. Minimise the amount of time that you stay depleted, and that's going to minimise how hungry you do get. And it's also going to help with recovery. I mean, talking about recovery, at the end of that run, I've actually just gone over on my ankle, so I'm hoping that it's not too bad, but at the minute it's looking pretty messed up. So into this meal, I'll show you when it's done. And of course you can prep this as well as overnight oats, so it's a great first meal option. And let's get into it. This is the finished product of the oat bowl. I want to make sure I don't tip it all over the table there. But we've got 20 grams of peanut butter, 75 grams of mixed berries, and then 70 grams of oats and some chia seeds on top of there as well. And I think it's super important that people might look at this meal and be like, oh, if you're in a fat loss phase, how can you eat so many carbs? Should you be having peanut butter? But at the end of the day, something that I speak to clients about all the time is when you're trying to balance performance, when you're lifting in the gym, when you're looking to drop body fat, you can't go down every extreme of that avenue. You can't cut carbs, you can't underfuel. That's how you're going to end up burnt out, and that is how you're going to end up getting injured. And that's why people get to a weekend and completely overeat, because they've been starving themselves midweek, running crazy mileage and not fueling the body correctly. So having a good consistent diet and eating enough food is essential when you're trying to balance all of these three. And ultimately, something that a lot of people won't tell you is that when you are looking to balance all three with fat loss, running performance and lifting in the gym, the best way to do it is slowly. Is to look to lose body fat at a nice steady rate week by week, rather than looking to crash diet and then you just end up killing yourself. So yeah, gonna get this meal down and then I'll be into a few hours of work with clients, and then from there we'll get into the lift around midday.
Inside my mind until the sun goes down. Inside my
3 to 4 hour work block there. Wow, that's gone a lot faster than I thought it were going to. So I'm going to head off to the gym now. So no more nutrition going in before this gym session. As you saw from before that work block, I did have a pretty substantial bowl of oats. So I'm still going to be more than fueled enough to just go and hit a lift. Of course, when it comes to carb fueling, you really only need to be hitting a good amount of carbs when you're doing an intense workout further than 45 to 60 minutes. So a lift will be, we will be optimally fueled for that already. Gonna go and hit this, it's push today. So I'll show you a little bit of that, and then I'll show you what we're eating after to, of course, replenish the stores from that and kickstart that protein synthesis, which is the process of the muscle rebuilding and repairing tissue. Cannot wait for this. I'm absolutely starving. So this is a meal that I have pretty much every single day after a gym session. We've got 4 whole eggs, 1 bagel thin, and then 50 grams of low-fat cottage cheese. So of course, eggs, one of the most complete and bioavailable protein sources you can get. They also have every vitamin in other than vitamin C, so an absolute superfood that everyone should be consuming. Low-fat cottage cheese, high protein, tastes unreal. And then the bagels, of course, getting those fast-acting carbs in there, because when we train, whether that's running, whether that's a gym, we're going to deplenish those energy stores and we want to get them topped back up. As I mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that we keep those as topped up as possible whilst we're managing fat loss, so that we can mitigate both fatigue and also hunger as well. The post-gym, post-run, post-training fuel is, in my opinion, the most important fuel that you have across your day. Pre-fuel is also very important when it comes to your running. Maybe not so much for a gym session, but post is super important, whether that's a run, whether that's a gym, or whatever training style it is that you're going for. So I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to tuck into this. I'm going to put some salt on this as well for that hydration benefit, give that cellular energy a good top up after training. And then we'll head into another 3 to 4 hour work block, and then I'll show you the final meal of the day. But this is going to be a big feed, and the final meal will also be a good big meal as well. And then I'll go over the total calories, the total expenditure, and everything for the day to lose body fat, get faster, and also keep a good physique.
Inside my mind until the sun goes down. Inside my mind until the sun goes down. Inside my mind until the sun.
Whilst we're on the topic of nutrition here, I'm just doing some client work designing out one of his nutrition plans, and something super important. He asked a question around when he should be having his carbohydrates throughout the day, because he mentioned on his check-in form that he's been struggling with energy a little bit during the deficit around his training, and in his sessions he's felt a little bit drained. So I said to him, when is it that you've been prioritizing your carbohydrates, right? Because I always say to clients, you want to be prioritizing some quick acting carbs before your session, and then you want to be making sure that you're getting in those post-workout carbs, just as I've mentioned earlier on in this video. And this client said that he's kind of been neglecting that. You know, he hasn't been fueling for the sessions. He's just been sticking to a rigid meal timing of eating way before his training. This client was actually eating at around 6 a.m. in the morning, and then he was training on his lunch at work and eating nothing between those times. So I've said, right, we need to change that. we need to make sure that we're getting in a little bit more fuel closer to that workout, ideally around an hour or two before, and then after that workout making sure that you're then having some quick acting carbs and some proteins to recover as well. That's a change that we included around 3 weeks ago. His energy's changed, his performance has changed, his recovery's changed, and that really does just show how important nutrition timing is. So it's not just about what you're eating, it does matter about when you consume it as well. This is going to be the final meal of the day that we're cooking up. So we've got 5% extra lean beef mince, cottage cheese, rice, asparagus, red pepper and some greens. So we've got fibre across the asparagus and the greens as well, and then peppers in there for the flavour and some nutrients. Rice, quick, easy digesting carbohydrate. You could also go for sweet potato or a normal potato option there. It is going to probably leave you a little bit fuller if you have potato, so would probably be a better option, but that's just what we're going for tonight, no problem at all. And then of course the beef, high in protein, getting in that protein, and the same with the cottage cheese as well. And then just got some little protein yogurt for after, which I'll put some peanut butter and some berries on as well. So after all this, that is going to round out the day of eating. I'll show you the meal once it's cooked, I'll show you the yogurt, and then of course I'll do a big roundup of the day at the end, and I'll speak through why I had certain things, and then give you all the calories and macros so you can take away this day and use it for inspiration with your days of eating moving forward. But a solid day, I'm looking forward to getting tucked into this. This is the final product, and that looks absolutely insane. So I'm going to tuck into this now, and then we'll do a big roundup at the end. That wraps up the full day of eating there. A good solid day of nutrition, utilising carbohydrates around workouts, proteins post-workouts, and making sure that we've got a good selection of micronutrients within there as well. I think that it's super important that these type of videos get made, because there seems to be a big trend at the minute where people are eating in crazy deficits, where they're eating in like 1,000-calorie deficits and then running crazy miles and hitting lifts, and it's just unsustainable, and there's no way that you're going to be able to maintain that over a long period of time. And even if you do manage to get into great shape doing that, you're just going to slowly put that weight back on, because you're not going to be able to do it forever. So sitting comfortably in a nice like 500 calorie deficit max when you're looking to perform, when you're looking to recover, when you're looking to drop body fat, I really would try and have 500 calories as your top end deficit. That is very much sustainable, and you can have little maintenance days in there when you need it and refeed days when you need it as well. And think of it as a long-term play rather than rushing to get super lean and beating yourself up. Take a step back, think of the long game, think that you're trying to do more than one thing at once. You're trying to perform, you're trying to lift, you're trying to get lean, and all of those things are stresses on the body. And if you go too hard in all of them avenues, you will eventually burn yourself out. 80% of your running should be easy. Your lifting sessions should be intense, but they shouldn't be 5 or 6 days a week. Your nutrition should support every single one of those sessions. Carbs pre, carbs and proteins post, and then balance out those fats across the day. This is super, super important. So I'm going to put up my calories and macros on the screen here from MyFitnessPal. It says that I've had around 2,100 calories today, but I've actually had a few other bits that I just didn't chuck in there. Things like coffee with milk, and then I've also had another yogurt bowl as well. So I've actually had around 2,300 calories, and then I've burnt around, my watch says 1,000, so that's probably more like 750. So just as I said, in there around a 500 calorie deficit or so, and that feels very much sustainable. You know, I'm not hungry, I'm recovered, and I'm moving well, and that's the important thing. You need to find something that works for you. You need to find something that even when days are stressful and they're tough, you can still stick to that nutrition plan. And a nutrition plan that is solid will ensure that you don't go into the weekend that hungry that you end up just binge eating all weekend and ruining midweek's progress. So the big actionable takeaways is carbs pre and post. Do not be scared of carbohydrates. They are essential. Protein, always, of course, super important for muscle balance, muscle repair. Sorry, I've lost my words there. Satiety, keeping you full. And then your fats are super important for your hormone function as well. Keeping that testosterone where it needs to be and keeping that immune system nice and healthy. So don't neglect any of them. Every single macro and micronutrient should be within your diet. And I hope that this helps you. If you have any questions, anything you need to know, just drop them below and I'll see you in the next.